Hello, everyone. This is Naishad Gadani, the co founder of Career Care Package, coming to you from sunny Melbourne today. And it's my great pleasure to host Michelle from the Pexa, the talent acquisition partner from Pexa today. And today we are going to talk about building a career in a startup. And before we do that, I wanted to, thank Caroline for yesterday's solo run because my internet really died and I just did not have any other way to jumpstart that. So, hopefully that it went really well. And, we are really looking forward to today's interaction with Michelle. And today is our 82nd episode in our journey of Career Care Package. And we are inching closer to a century. And we got a couple of new, very, exciting news around that we'll share with you, early next week about a particular week that we are celebrating. But before we introduce Michelle, I will welcome Caroline Brown.
Thanks, Naish. And yeah, it was fun doing, I shouldn't say it was fun doing it solo yesterday. It wasn't. And I rang you and you were storming off to Telstra to get it all sorted. So, yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people having internet problems at the moment, but I guess in Melbourne, it's absolutely, the network is absolutely loaded up. So, but today we've got Michelle Half, a talent manager or talent partner from Pexa, a startup or a scaling business, not so much a startup. And I always have a romantic thing about working for a startup, Michelle. It's kind of like, late nights, pizza, grungy garages, but the hint or the promise of something amazing at the end of it. So thank you very much for joining us today.
That's okay. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. I wonder whether, because we want to talk about, I think during these times people start to cast the net and think, well, what sectors are booming? Where's the opportunity in that type of thing? And start to contemplate whether working in a startup or a business that's scaling is a good option for them. But I think there's probably a lot of myths and misconceptions around what it's actually like. And I think maybe there's a special sort of person that fits well. So we kind of wanted to pick your brains officially around that topic today. But I guess a great place to start would be to tell us about Pexa and tell us about what you actually do for them.
Yeah, sure. So Pexa is leading in the e-conveyancing space, and we currently we're a tech company, so really kind of as that connection point between your lawyers, your conveyancers, your practitioners, and the banks as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too sure if you guys would have bought a house here in Melbourne, but what used to be quite tedious with the paperwork and kind of running around and getting all that done, we have managed to digitize that and create a really great experience to home buyers and sellers and conveyancers alike. Yeah, it's and so my role here is in the recruitment space, and I kind of in a nutshell look after the recruitment function for Pexa, and I'd look after all the roles that come in.
Wow. It's funny, I was reading the description of Pexa and thinking about my own experience of buying a place, and I reckon the most stressful part was the legalities of it, waiting for it to go through and the exchange, thinking anything could go wrong. So anything that makes that process easier certainly is a fantastic thing. So tell me about recruiting for a startup. What's it like, and what do you actually look for in people that you might hire?
Yeah, sure. So recruiting for a startup is really great. It's amazing when you're able to work and represent a company that you believe in. So I won't kind of speak to just Pexa overall, but I, prior to this, have been in agency recruitment. So my experience would be recruiting across your big corporates, your smaller organizations, and I'd say, the smaller companies are really honed down on culture fit and that experience and what that looks like. So what you might see in a larger organization when it comes to hiring is, strict processes, which, you might have to kind of go through multiple rounds of interview or 2 or 3 rounds and go through references, vetting and all that kind of stuff. Whereas in smaller organisations, they can, they'll interview as many times just to make sure that you're the right candidate. So it could be something that starts with 2 interviews, or it could range to even 3 or 4, a coffee with the CEO just to make sure that you're the right fit. So it's quite unconventional when you're in a kind of smaller organisation, but being so small and having someone to kind of fit into the culture and be able to get along with everyone is very important. So I'd say that that's what kind of like hiring for a startup is like, and that it's quite different to how larger organisations hire as well.
And getting that fit, I guess, because I would assume, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but you want people that have a level of flexibility around their roles as well as the company grows. Is that right? Or
yeah, sure. So I'd say, when you're in a smaller organisation, if you are going to kind of stick to the position description and not want to move away from that, or you're really focused on title, then it might not be a good fit, because when you're working in a smaller organisation, you are looking to really kind of you're really aligned to their mission. So in a smaller organisation, it could mean more flexible work hours, but everyone's so passionate about what they do, so it's about kind of putting in that time to deliver and make things happen.
Fantastic. Naish, you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to let all listeners know, if you got a question for Michelle, please make sure that you type in and send it to us. And I think Michelle can also see the questions popping up on the screen, but feel free to do that. I think my understanding of the startup, as Caroline mentioned, is about really really relaxed environment, but hustle. But they want you to really put in more work, not so much more hours only, but more dedicated work, and also being able to do a couple of different roles, also jump in. And if you're a business analyst and you're asked to do a bit of data analysis work, then you jump in and do that rather than waiting for the startup founder to find somebody and do that. Is that still accurate, that you are in a kind of a upcoming startup? I think you are still required to jump in, help other people out as well, rather than just sticking to your own role.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like everyone here at Pexa, if I'm in the role recruitment, I'm a subject matter expert. But if someone comes up to me and say, "Hey, can you help out with this project or this other project?" It's kind of like a team effort, and no one really does say no. So in your reference for a BA, they may have to do some data work, or they may have to kind of step in to help the product owner or do some of that work. Or sometimes I hear developers can also get involved with testing in smaller organizations. So definitely, and it's quite exciting as well to be able to get your hands on this experience, have that exposure, and be able to kind of build your toolkit while learning on the job. So that's the opportunity that you'd kind of get as well.
And I would assume, from a talent point of view, you're really putting your stamp on the organisation as well. Like, you're really embedded in that kind of role. Do you think that with being in talent in a startup or a scaling organisation?
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I think we all have our own part to play. So I think everyone contributes to the key values, missions of the organisation. Yeah.
And how do you go about it? Like, are you sort of trawling LinkedIn, or do you rely on Seek? You've got other channels that you use to find people?
Yeah, so finding people, there's multiple forms. So word of mouth is one. Even though word of mouth doesn't mean you'll get the job, you'll have to still go through a process. I would love to ensure that every person has a fair chance, and that we have strong D&I policies as well. So making sure that is implemented into our recruitment processes. But to find candidates, I use LinkedIn Recruiter. I also use Seek. We also have our own database internally, and yeah, just having a strong talent pool of past candidates who have applied as well and reaching out to them when needed.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think Amit has a question, but I think that this is probably Amit might be reading my notes secretly. The question, the question around cultural fit is a very a very kind of subjective thing. Sometimes I will see someone as a cultural fit, and my colleague may not see them as a cultural fit. What do you look for? Like, what do you ask specific questions? Are you kind of relying on what your gut says about this person? Do you ask them to go through certain kind of, what do we say, psychometric tests? How do you really assess the closest cultural fit as possible?
Yeah, so cultural fit is probably defined differently in other companies. So, kind of putting it to a general point of view, it's not really about kind of being able to have a drink with that person anymore. So, in your regards to psychometric testing, yeah, that is a way, but it should not be kind of the by all means, you'll decide to hire that person based on test. So I honestly think it's important to find someone who has the same values as the organisation and asking them how they live to their values every day and how they make decisions based on those values. And honestly, just asking like character questions as well. So I make sure that I'm not asking just technical questions like, can you do the job? A lot of people can do the job, but making sure that you can kind of, if the candidate knows themselves and knows their values and can articulate that as well. And then also getting the team involved in interviewing. So not just having one person or two or just senior stakeholders, but getting the team to understand that individual as well, whether it be going for a coffee or making it a bit more formal. That's different with every kind of interview. But yeah, that's just how we assess culture fit.
That coffee meeting, I think people find tricky a lot of the time because they don't know whether it's an interview or it's a coffee or something in between. Is there that you still treat that process as part of the recruitment, like a formal part of that recruitment process? So a coffee with Pexa is still kind of an interview. Would that be correct?
Yeah, look, I'd say just as a kind of advice to like any role, from the start when you're talking to someone over the phone up until the very end, it's, if you are kind of your authentic self throughout that process, then hopefully that coffee won't be, a full-on interview process. But I'd say, yeah, you want to create a good impression throughout the entire process, even the coffee, because I've seen from my time in agency, and I'm not talking about Pexa, but I'm probably referring to more some of my clients back then. I have seen candidates get rejected from a coffee as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember speaking to, I don't know if it was an HR manager or a CEO at one point and talking about like the recruitment process, and he was saying he always looked at how the person having coffee spoke to the waiter as a good indicator of, what they're actually like. So I guess the message is you are being sort of observed and judged and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even how they treat the receptionist when they come in and go for an interview. I mean, everyone here at Pexa, we kind of treat everyone as friends. So, if a candidate kind of comes in and, doesn't talk to the receptionist at all or doesn't make eye contact and treats someone differently to another way than treat the hiring manager, that's going to get picked up. So, yeah, I totally agree.
Oh, good too. I'm glad that I'm right.
Yeah, if we can go back to the LinkedIn recruiter that you've used, I think that's a great sort of talking point, because not many people know. I don't think so. We've discussed LinkedIn recruiter, Caroline, on this show. But can you take us into the behind the scenes of using LinkedIn recruiter? And you also mentioned that sometimes you go back to the previous applicants also. So does LinkedIn recruiter has got that facility for you to build kind of a pipeline, make some notes, and then you can refer back? How does that LinkedIn recruiter really, how do you use that?
Yeah, so LinkedIn have actually kind of released their own ATS system, applicant tracking system, recently, where you can kind of put notes, and you can, when you message a candidate through LinkedIn Recruiter, that message will stay there for whenever. So I still have messages from 2-3 years ago in my old role as well. So with LinkedIn Recruiter, they keep making upgrades, but really I use it to search for candidates. So how that can work is whatever you have on your public profile, all of that is searchable. So if you're putting in, you worked at RMIT or you worked at a certain university, I can search that and target specific unis up, and making sure that I, message everyone from who's attended RMIT, for example. If you put down certain skills, like you are, a BA with agile skills and have experience with user stories and Jira and all that kind of stuff, I can keyword search, stories, Jira, BA, agile, and that will populate a list of candidates for me to have a look at. So just think of it as your profile right now, and every single piece of information that you enter in, whether it be your career, the company that you worked at, the where you even studied, what languages you know, all of that is searchable, and that enables me to create a targeted search to even reach out to you directly, or even to talent pool you as well for later. Yep.
And what do you actually, from a LinkedIn profile, what makes somebody stand out to you as an applicant?
Yes, good question. So honestly, the more content, the better, so I can kind of gauge what you've done. Some people don't put much at all, and it's hard because you don't know if they have the required experience. So I most likely won't reach out to people who don't have a lot of info. I'd say, like, even small things like their interest. So if they are interested in tech companies, or what are they following, how active are they, would stand out to me. And if they are commenting on kind of community related articles, how involved they are, if they are a social media guru and they have LinkedIn, what does their profile look like, and how have they commented on other people's profiles, and what do they like and follow. Honestly, just putting in information as to, don't just put in your role and the organisation, or some people don't put in that at all, but just putting in dot points about what you achieved, putting in a nice summary, a nice blurb. Yeah.
So you kind of want to look and sound. Sorry?
Sorry, a photo. Definitely put a photo.
Yeah, it's always handy. It's amazing. Like, I think the number of photos get 37 or 30% more click-throughs, because I guess, we're wanting to associate with the person as well. So, yeah.
If you just stay on LinkedIn profile, so I believe the LinkedIn Recruiter is kind of a Google search, where you got, you can search for agile, and like a Boolean search, you can add something, or is that how it really works? And secondly, do recruiters keep their profile open, that if you search via LinkedIn Recruiter, then will I ever find out that yes, Michelle came to my profile, or LinkedIn Recruiter keeps that secret for anybody to know?
Yeah, so if I'm searching on normal LinkedIn without Recruiter, because there's two different sides to it, if I'm searching on normal LinkedIn and I look at your profile, you'll be able to see that I looked at it. But if I'm searching through Recruiter, then you most likely wouldn't see me look at your profile. So I actually don't think you do. Or I believe sometimes it just says Recruiter looked at your profile, but it won't say where you're from, it won't say your name, it won't say any of that. Yeah, and with the Boolean search as well, you're correct. You can definitely put strings in there.
So it's like a stealth operation, right?
Yeah, it's like searching, but to the extreme.
Yeah, because that's another thing, right? Because once people, me and Caroline would agree that a lot of people then get excited, right? That it's like 5 recruiters, went, checked out my profile. Then the next thing is if you can just stay here on LinkedIn for a moment, is around, do people that approach you, if let's say you visited someone's profile, how many people you've seen that people approach you with a professional communication, and do you expect them to approach you like that? Are you what are your responses if people approach you? Because you did, I believe that people don't accidentally land onto profiles, right? There is either they find you through common connection, or they were searching for something that landed onto your profile. How would you advise job seeker to respond to those recruiters who visit their profile?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I actually try to avoid using my public profile because of this, because when I'm looking at someone's profile, it's not because I think that they are always, the right person for the job. It's probably because I'm having a look, or they came up in one of my searches and I just wanted to check it out. Um, if you see a recruiter looking at you, I don't think that, and their name is kind of like displayed, so they looked at your profile in public. There's no harm in reaching out to them. I don't think there's harm in that. But in saying that, on being on the flip side, I have so many messages come through all the time. So a message saying that, oh, hey, I noticed that you looked at my profile. I honestly would prioritize other messages before that one as well. I would try my best to get back to everyone and say, yes, I was just looking at your profile as I was looking at this role, or just seeing if you can be a match for some roles here, and I'll just take it there.
I wanted to ask you a question around referrals, because when they look at the big data of how people recruit or how organisations recruit across the board, they say like less than 1% of people that apply online are successful because people get flooded. And that when somebody's a referral, so somebody might come to you and say, can you interview this person? There's a much higher chance of being interviewed. How do you view referrals that might come from other people in the organisation? Do you always interview that person, and do you have a different process for that?
I find it surprising that less than 1% kind of get the job, because just if you just rely on referrals, you really kind of kill the diversity in an organisation. So look, if referrals is something I take seriously, and it means that I will look at their profile, but doesn't always mean that they're right for the job. So if someone comes through with a referral, I'll have a look. I'll definitely add on any notes, and myself, the hiring manager, will all take a look, and if they are right, then we will continue and put them through the same process as everyone else. But if they are not, then they're probably better suited to another role. Yeah.
What about, I think this question would be really relevant for a lot of people. So you've worked at larger corporates and you've worked at Pexa. How's the recruitment function different? How's the process different from the way that you might deal with candidates, or the way that more so the way the recruitment function is viewed? Do people in a smaller, flexible, scaling organisation view you differently compared to, say, an agency recruiter or somebody recruiting for a large corporate?
Yeah, interesting question as well, because every single person that looks at your CV will have a different view, regardless of whether you're in a big organisation or a smaller organisation. In regards to process, just from my experience, if I were recruiting for, a large, really regulated kind of company, then you'll most likely have a very structured interview process, and the feedback will come back to you a lot later and slower than having kind of like a smaller organisation kind of interview you, and having more flexibility around how the interview is, and the feedback will come back to you really quickly as well. So, and in terms of the teams in each organisation, again, I've seen a lot of larger corporations and they all structure their interviews quite differently. So I can't really say that there's one way for, recruitment to work, but I do believe that the feedback is generally quite slower when you're working with a larger organisation.
There's layers and layers of...
So it takes a while for that internal communications to kind of get back.
Yeah. Excellent.
So on another, question that a lot of job seeker have is approaching startups directly. Because if let's say I want to work in data analytics, or fintech, or edutech, or whichever tech that you see, how do talent acquisition partners or talent acquisition consultant appreciate that kind of approach with thoughtful communication, that why am I a great fit for the role, and this is what I need, I can offer, or approaching directly to the manager, or should they approach through the talent acquisition? What are your kind of thoughts on that, and is this acceptable approach?
Yeah, look, I think it's always really great for someone to not just kind of message you saying, I want this job, or kind of being really direct about it, because that would be quite common with a lot of people who do that. So I think the best way for what I really love is kind of getting great responses through the job ad itself and going through one platform, because everything's just easier for me when it's in one place. But if you want to reach out and to go through other channels like LinkedIn, for example, I won't recommend just messaging the person and asking for the job. So sometimes it's always best to understand a bit more about the role before applying, or just to knowledge share and ask them about potentially what let's say like the hiring manager is from cyber, so asking like about the cyber trends and kind of building on that foundation before you move there. So for me, to be honest, it's best to go through direct channels rather than the hiring manager itself, unless if the hiring manager is the one advertising, because I guess that's kind of my role, really, to kind of go through that screening before I pass it on to the hiring manager.
I think, yeah, the point you made about the diversity as well, you get the opportunity to see the market versus somebody coming via a referral too. So
yeah.
What's the difference? Because I know you had a chat to Nash before coming on about you being sort of in scale up mode, I guess, at Pexa versus actual startup. So what's the difference between the skill set that you might look for at the point you are now versus sort of a more raw and garage based, for want of a better word, startup?
Oh, interesting. Just like, I guess it depends on the role for me to kind of specifically answer that. But like in terms of skill set, really, even startup to scale up right now, culture and having not just ticking the box with the tools is very important. I think that if you are contracting out to a larger organisation or looking to work there, then it may just be about kind of being able to do the role, but it's a lot more than that, just where we are right now. So in terms of skill set, I'd probably need a kind of real life job to be able to talk to that. But honestly, culture fit is what I see as key.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, no, we don't have any more questions. I think LinkedIn question we already covered. So if you got any more question, please send, because we'll be wrapping up the session soon. If we can go to the just quickly about resumes. I know it's a very, everyone has an opinion on resume, and everyone is right about that too. So I'll stop arguing people about resumes. Completely. What are your top things that you see? You must have seen probably close to 1 million resumes so far, Michelle. So what are your, if somebody comes and said, if you get these 3, 4, 5 things right, it is a much better resume. What are your tips on that?
Oh, all right. Speaking from experience, probably having a nice layout that's easy to read. That's not going to make or break it, but that's something that's when I am looking at tons of CVs, that's something that's really nice to have. Looking at making sure that your experience is up to date is another one, because I have seen CVs that may only kind of they're quite old, or or you're not too sure what has happened. So being clear about where you're at right now, and also putting in your achievements. So a lot of CVs may be quite generic in just their responsibilities. So when I'm looking at a CV, I'd really want to know what you achieved, because you were kind of brought onto this role that you're in right now to achieve something or do something. So what is it that you've done and what have you achieved in that role or previous roles? Looking at something that stands out for me, it's not a must-have, is any extracurricular activities. So I recruit a lot in the tech space, and someone who might have a active forum on like GitHub, or might be a part of a Slack community, or might be involved in any of those, that would be great. But it's not a mandatory and must-have. But honestly, just making sure that your achievements are quite clear in your roles.
Yeah. Just with looking at interests, what are you thinking that tells you about somebody on their CV? Is that sort of giving you an indicator of a broader, like their broader personality, or you like the fact that people have different things, or something beyond work?
Yeah, well, I personally like to see personality on a CV. So whether it be they like sports or they like to do this in there, I like to see that personality come out. So having something that's kind of more related to what you're doing. So for example, what I just spoke about before, that kind of shows me that they're active in the community. And if that's the case, I'll probably have a look at their online profile as well and see how active they are, and to kind of get a sense of who they are as well. And then if it looks great and I'm piqued, I'm curious, I will give them a call and kind of take it from there.
Yep. And just the question that's completely slipped my mind. I was going to ask, that's it. What are there any areas that you really typically struggle to fill in terms of roles? Like what skills do you see as being in demand at the moment?
Quite a bit. So I think a lot of areas are growing. So cyber security is one.
Yes.
Data is another one. DevSecOps is something that is the buzzword has been around for quite a while as well. I am talking about tech roles specifically, but I'd say there's also other roles as well that are quite more industry specific. So for example, here at Pexa, we might have specific roles kind of with a conveyancing or practitioner background, which may be hard to fill as well. But I'd say I could probably speak to more of the technical side in saying that those three are the hard to fill.
That makes sense, I think.
Excellent. Before we let you go, Michelle, we ask a customary question to all of our audience, all our guests. So the question is very simple question. What makes you optimistic? What makes you hopeful? And specifically in these times, it's sometimes it is difficult to contain optimism or retain optimistic. But what really makes you optimistic? Just right now.
Well, having family and friends that are safe, well and happy is my priority, and working with a really awesome team. So Pexa's done a really great job in supporting their employees and helping people throughout this difficult time. So that makes me very happy and proud as well to work for Pexa, but also to knowledge share with all you guys as well. So just being able to, if I could help anyone out here today, because I know right now a lot of people are losing their jobs, just to be able to help in any way that I can is something that I am hopeful for, and I'm hopeful that you guys will find jobs and something will come about, especially during this period and even after as well, because I know some roles are kind of coming back up out in the market. But those are the three things.
Fantastic, and thank you for your generosity. I think it's given people a real insight from a practical sense about what goes on behind the scenes, because I guess you never know what's going to emerge from this time in terms of exciting startups, and certainly what happened at the GFC. There were some great things that came out of that. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. It's been absolutely fantastic.
It's okay. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Michelle, thank you again for being gracious because we got introduced by Emma of Launch Victoria. It took a while for us because obviously COVID-19 keeps changing every day, and that would have a lot of impact on your work. But you've been kind enough to come online and share your perspective on things. So thank you very much.
It's okay. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right, on you
KB.
go, Nate.
All right. So tomorrow we have two shows. Tomorrow 3 p.m. we are going to France, or France is coming to Melbourne. We are speaking to David Hennessy. He's the founder of a technique called Wonder Technique. Go and check out what he does. We are going to talk about change and mindset, but from a different perspective. So don't miss that tomorrow 3 p.m. On the same channel, and then tomorrow night 10 p.m. Melbourne time, we are going United States, and we are going to talk about how do you find your true north and using play and creativity. It's going to be practical, hands-on session. Hopefully everything goes well with our technology, but it's going to be fascinating discussion tomorrow. So there are two sessions tomorrow, 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. Melbourne time. Caroline.
Yes, it'll be a wonderful keeping us busy. So the only thing I want to wrap up with is if you want to follow the hashtag Career Care Package to find out what's coming up and to watch past shows. We had a question about our YouTube channel. We've put a banner up, and we're basically sorting out the video interviews, but we have 81 of them, so we're going to be quite busy for a while, but we'll keep you posted on what we're going to do with that. So looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow, and I'll let you do the sign off, Nish.
Thank you very much, everyone. And if you are in Melbourne, stay indoors. Don't go out. And if you're anywhere else, do whatever that you want to
Don't go
do.
to
But
the pub.
see you later, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.